On YouTube, the drama never stops, but neither does the activism. So I'm curious to know something today. Um, People like me aren't supposed to talk about things like Zionism because a lot of people get very hot around the edges, and again, I don't really know why. Um, so to make it clear, I'm. Do you know what I said years ago? We've become the disclaimer generation. If you don't disclaim, you're an arsehole. And if you do, you take up the first part of your video saying, I don't hate this person, I don't hate that, but it's a terrible generation to be in. I hate it. So here we go. I don't hate Jews. I've got no problem with Jews. Never have had in my life. Okay? So Israeli government, different. Because they're a government, just like all the others. And they say they don't care what the world thinks about them, and then they spend half their time doing what Saudi do, and that's paying people off to say nice things about them. So yeah, they're just the same as any other corrupt government around the world. What I wanted to speak to you about was Zionism, and not as a person that is an authority on it. Um, there's some changes I've noticed since I first came into this movement, and I want to know why. Now, people might argue me on some of this, and if I'm wrong about any of this, please let me know and I'll make a correction. But when I first came into this movement, I remember starting a channel. This was 8 years ago now. I remember starting a channel, and everyone was calling everyone else a Zionist. That hasn't changed very much. That's not just in the movement. That's across YouTube, social media. Everyone's a fucking Zionist, a shill, a Nazi, something. Yeah, people, but Zionist was a big word going around. I didn't even know what it meant. I was almost frightened to ask. It was just everyone was being called a Zionist. I was like, is this a new name for paedophile? You know, I didn't know. I didn't know. So these people going about Zionist. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then I saw people calling, say, Tommy a Zionist and other people a Zionist. I still didn't really get it. And I see that the right is more sort of backing Israel and the Jews, and then, or just say Israel again, because otherwise we get things confused. Israel, and then other people were backing like Gaza, and I'm sitting there thinking, what about our country? Right, and people going off to visits in these other countries. Well, our country is literally on the edge, and it does confuse you. It makes you think, well, you say you've got our country's best interests at heart, but we know that these countries, like Saudi, like Israel, are paying out money to get people to go away and say good things about them. And I just don't think we got time for that much. So that obviously got my interest. But what really confused me, and here's what does confuse me. I had a guy on here called Enoch a long time ago. I don't know why he disappeared, because he always used to come on. He never used to like it if I spoke to anybody that was in his eyes, he saw as being far right, because he would think that I was going to get sucked into them, because he saw that happen around the collect time, and he thought that was going to happen. When he realized it wasn't going to happen, he came back and we were cool. But I don't know what happened to him since then. But I hope he was all right. But the point of it was, he came on, and I remember saying to him, "Like, right, you're Jewish. You tell me what is Zionism?" And he said there's two types, and he said there's people who believe in a home a homeland for the Jews, an ethno state, as many people say. And he also said, but he said there's another group, there's about 250,000 strong. He said that are more like some of the Muslims that you fight. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, they have strict codes, strict rules, and they also believe that they've got a supremacy thing going on. Now, I've just taken Enoch's word for this. This is years ago now. A supremacy thing going on, and yeah, they don't mix. They do think they're better than other people. He said that there's probably about 250,000 in the world. And again, I'm not saying that was secondhand information from somebody who did have a dog in the race, but it was open about it. So I figured that somebody Jewish is going to know a lot more than me about it. So that was the two definitions he gave me. They're very different. He said one's just homeland for the Jews. The other one is a little bit more hardcore. I've never met any of that hardcore side, by the way. What I have noticed is the change. So when I first came into this movement, Zionist was a word that was either overused as an insult, or it was a word that people used in other contexts. And when people used to call Tommy or anybody in our movement Zionist, they used to deny it. And this is the change I'm talking about. Over the last few years, I'm seeing it was Tommy was now regularly says he's a Zionist. I think Richard said it the other day. A lot more people come out and saying I'm a Zionist. Can you be a Zionist if you're not Jewish? I mean, they're trying to reduce it down to, oh, it's about believing in the state for the Jews. Yeah, surely it's about believing in the state for the Jews by the Jews. No, because how is calling yourself a Zionist when you live in Britain and you're worried about British soil? Um, I don't understand that. Like that doesn't compute for me. Like I know Zionism could be classed as a belief, but it's also classed as a truth by the Jews, right? Like, that's our homeland. So that's not just a territorial dispute, that's a blood claim. So I wouldn't, even if I believe in a homeland for the Jews and an ethno state for the Jews, I'm not going to get involved in a blood claim that has nothing to do with me. So why are there so many English people walking around calling themselves Zionists? I don't understand that. And more each year. And all of the people that denied it years ago when they used to be called Zionists, they all used to say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. All of them. Every single one of them that now calls themselves Zionists. Why? Is my question. What's changed? Is it a misunderstanding of the word Zionist? Have I got the word? Have I misunderstood the word? If I have, but it's not easy to get a simple definition. I've looked. It's not easy to get a simple definition. That's why I asked Enoch. Because I knew, being Jewish and being in Israel, he might actually, give me the best or worst take on it. But it does trouble me when I see everybody in other countries going on about Zionism, and yet there's certain things they won't say about being British or English or whatever else because they find it too distasteful. We've got to stop that. We've really got to stop that. If you respect the Jews for the belief in Zionism, and if you respect their blood right to what they consider to be their home, if you are on that side of the fence, then fine. We've got a blood right to these islands. And if you look far enough back in history, we owned nearly all of France. We nearly destroyed France, and it was considered our blood right to own France as well. Because I'll be going too into history, but we've had people gone about the British Empire. We've had multiple empires in which we nearly destroyed France during one of them, partly through marriage, but partly through war as well. My point being is, so we've got a long series of bloodlines here, and we have a real problem talking about bloodline heritage and history and stuff like that here. And yet we can everybody's going on and calling themselves a Zionist. The same people that were denying it only a few years back are all gradually, one by one, starting to call themselves that. Have I misunderstood? I thought really you'd need to be a Jew to be a Zionist. Have I got that wrong? If I have, fine. Secondly, why do they feel so happy and proud to say Zionist? Yeah, I've got no problem with it, by the way. Why are they so happy and proud to say Zionist? And then like that about some of the more British and English things that they believe in. That's not cool. It means you've got more balls to shout out a dispute in a foreign land than you have in your own where you're about to be replaced. That's not bravery. That's not bravery. It's almost mockery. It's not mockery. They don't see it as mockery, but it's almost mockery. So, again, I'm not. Maybe I've got part of this wrong. I'm open to having part of this wrong, and if anybody can educate me, fine. I'm happy to be educated. But you have to understand when people say they're not something and then they say they are something. As time goes by, when it becomes more fashionable to do so, when they are scared to say certain things about Britain, but they'll make these bold claims about other lands that we really don't have a right to say in. It makes me wonder what the angle is. Where's the angle been coming at? A lot of people were accusing me of a lot of things years ago that I said were absolutely fucking ridiculous. Come forward 5 or 6 years, some of those things are more true now than they ever were, and some of those people were sort of right. Now, with this said, do I believe there's a bunch of Jews running the world? Here's what I do believe. People say, "Oh, Jews run Hollywood." Yeah, they built it. They built Hollywood. The Jews built Hollywood. So it is primarily run by Jewish people at the top of the ladder. If you look at the job distribution down the ladder, it changes. But yeah, they built Hollywood, so that would be why. No, I don't believe Jews run the world. I believe there's probably Jews in there, but I believe rich people run the world. Money runs the world. People with too much power run the world. Far too much power. Um, that's what I believe. So no, I don't believe it's just a small group of Jews that sit running the world, and it's ridiculous. I think anybody with enough money, power, and influence has got to say. It's probably still a very small select group of people. But anyway, so if anyone can enlighten me on this, because you know, Zionism was almost a dirty word because of the fact that people were using it as an insult. Because it was. I don't know exactly what the insult was back then. Because like 8 years ago, as I said, it was a new word. Everyone's calling everybody else it. It meant nothing. You know, it loses its meaning because everybody's just. Then one day you finally have enough. You try to look it up, and you get about 900 different definitions, and none of them seems to be agreeing with anybody. So next thing you do is you ask people, what's your take on what I'm saying today? And do you think, even if it's cool, even if it's fine, do you think that British people should be going on and on and on about Zionism at the moment, as in, oh, I'm a Zionist, when really we've got problems here? I would say that we're in a lot worse shit than Israel. I know Israel's in a war, but they're winning. we're in a we're in a cold war that we're losing. That's why I bring this up. It's been on my mind a little while, but I think it finally got pushed over the edge when I saw another guy call himself a Zionist the other day who has literally nothing to do with Jews whatsoever, and used to deny it. Again, another one that used to deny it. So why did you deny it? I need to know one or the other. Why did they deny it originally then? If it's not a bad thing, why did they deny it originally? And why are they saying it now? I'm confused, genuinely. And I want to know the answer, because in any other walk of life, this would look shady. Saying you don't believe in something, then you do believe in something. That would look shady. Because it's not like, oh, I've had a spiritual awakening. Just people have just changed their minds without even an explanation. I find that odd. If that be a political situation, you'd want an explanation. Even if it be a transference from one kind of religion to another, you'd probably want some kind of explanation how that managed to occur, right? So I'm just curious, where have all these Zionists come from? Why now? And why did you deny it before? Again, to my Jewish friends and people out there, this is not about you. This is about Israeli government. This is about British people. Actually, but although I'm inviting you into this conversation because you may be able to, Jewish people may be able to inject more truth on this than a lot of British people might be willing to. That's what I found with Enoch when he came on that day. He was much more willing to tell me ugly things. I'll tell you what Enoch said to me when we were talking. We were talking about films and representation in films and that. Because I said to him up until, I think it was 1939, because the Jews built Hollywood, they would never do any stories about Jews because they knew they would be frowned upon, right? So I think it was 1939, and some around that time, they never did anything about Jews. And even after that, they were very careful about how they did it. It's only more recently they did it. But now, obviously, things have changed. And I said to Enoch, like in Israel, and I said, do you think that the world, because of the World War, does what it did, like it did with racism, overcompensated, and has overcompensated with the Jews, and has overrepresented them, and has pushed them too far? It was based on a conversation me and him were having. It didn't come out of the blue. And his answer was absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I do think that it's gone too far the other way. It needs to recalibrate back to the middle, because obviously what happened to them was awful. So and that's an understatement. So yeah, was our culture trying to overcompensate? And again, I'm not saying he's the bastion of truth, but he sat in Israel, and he thought that was exactly what's happened, and he felt it needed to stop, because he said that overrepresentation of Jews is getting us a bad name. So I thought that was interesting, and I always had time for Enoch, so it's a shame that I never saw him again. But I always did used to knock about. But yeah, so it's interesting to me. So But like I say, when I see people changing their minds on something without explanation so suddenly, and none of them have got a dog in the race, I'm suspicious. And I think I've got a right to be. Because I saw them deny these same claims with real fervour only a few years ago. Why? I'm confused. Tom Fury, Zero News, calling David now.